Hi, Stephanie Toman here with the last of the series on Excel skills beyond the basics for now. And this is covering a very small area of tracing formula and error checking, so it might be useful to you. A very useful tool that it does look at is validation. Validated data in Excel is a really good, useful tool to use to keep things consistent and accurate. So hopefully, as a final one, you enjoy it. First areas on the trace precedent feature is in the formula tab, and you can see all of the areas here to do with formula auditing. So some really simple stuff here. I've dropped some bits onto the screen, some print shots just so you can see the dialog boxes that we're using if you are revising. This one might be that the exam asks you to trace a precedent of the C4. So you click in that cell, go to the formulas bar and click on trace precedents, and then you'll see it coming up. So to find out where that is, if you double click on that arrow, it goes to the area which looks like it's going to be trace dependent here. And then if you click on there and double click again, you will see that that's what it's connected to. That's its source if you are tracing it back. Okay. So the other things you've got remove. So if we did a remove precedence, so if I did a trace to begin with, then you can remove using the arrows. But generally in the exam, what it is, it's an on-screen tool or feature. So you will be using it in the online exam and they would expect to see it, or they record that you've used it. So once you go out of a document, it is no longer in the document. You don't print it or anything like that. It's an on-screen feature only. Okay, so just be aware of that. The error box you can use with regard to that. You can do error checking. This is good if you've got a very large spreadsheet and you're checking through to see if you've got any formulas that you've not found or you can't find by using your eye. So it's a good way of checking through. Generally not really in the exam much, more about using the precedent and the dependent. And then, like we did earlier, you've got the trace dependent and you can do the same thing there. Do you remember how you can trace it back? And then you can see how many ways that that's connected as well. If we go to the error, you can see that you've got an error, divide by 0. There is nothing in that cell, hence it won't work. So really quick stuff, not a lot to do with it, so that's why I don't hang about on it, but just follow the instructions if you do get a part of a question using this feature. And remember, they're all in the formula tab. And if you want to remove the arrows, just click on the remove arrows. Okay, that takes us on to validation. You'll probably get a question on this more than likely, and it's about using the data tab again and your data validation here. So it's about making sure that the information that goes into a spreadsheet is valid. In other words, it fits the criteria. It's not going to be redundant because it doesn't count for anything. So if there's only 20 rooms and somebody put in 22 rooms, then that obviously is redundant data because it doesn't really exist. So it's making sure that the inputter, the people that are using the spreadsheet, know or use it correctly according to criteria. And this is an example here. As you can see, I've dropped the dialog boxes that you normally get. We'll have a look in a minute. And you can see how this range, cell range here, has to be a whole number. It has to be greater than 147. So if I changed that to 100 and enter, then I've got this coming up to me and saying only whole numbers over 147. Retry. So I cancel it. So what it's doing is it's saying that I have to use a particular criteria, otherwise it won't accept it, and it sort of sends this dialog box at me. That dialog box that it sent to me is this. That's the bit you can see on there, the CI training, that's the label. What it sent to me was the information. If I come over here, there is an error message as well. So if I wanted that error message to come up about only whole numbers over 147, that's where that would be. So if we were going to create this, we could change it. So let's go and highlight this data. Go to the data validation. Let's do a whole number over 100. And let's do a message, input message, invoice number, invoice numbers over 100, and then an error message, only numbers over 100. And that's the one that we got up when we weren't happy with it. So what we've done is if we OK, now when we click on it, you can see it's over 100. But if you do forget or you don't notice it and you change it to something, then you've still got that message coming through. So all you're doing is highlighting a range, and then you're using the data validation in the way that you wish to use it. And that's by using this feature here. So we were already on a whole number. You can use lots of different things. And I've done some examples across the workbook here. It's the validation time. And you can see that how this one, if I highlight the range and we go into data validation, it's going to include the extra ones I've just highlighted. And you can put in a time, and then you can follow, like I've done here, it might be something starting at 8:30, finishing at 5:30. And if you get a time that goes before that or after that, then you could put in an error, an input cell and an error cell. They're really quite straightforward. The best one of all, I think, to use in real life and maybe in the exam as well, is the list one. So it's the one where you can get people to drop things down so you can pick from a list. And this stops a lot of, it clarifies and validates data in that people don't go putting their own idea of what they should put in. You don't need to use keys. So if you were putting biological sciences as school, someone might put biosciences, I may put B sciences, someone else might put biological sci. So that way you keep it really succinct. Everybody puts biological sciences by dropping down. In this one, I put J Jones, someone else might just put Jones. And so it keeps it consistent data and validated data. And the way that you would use that is if you highlight your range, as we've done before, data validation, and then we're going to use a list. So you put that onto list from the drop down, and then your source could be on another spreadsheet here. And we could use that. So we could use the Word, advanced Word spreadsheets, etc. Drop the list down and OK. And then you can see that you can pick those up from there. You could change that source. So you could go back to validation. The list source could go to here, and it could be this instead. And you can see that now we've got a whole different ball game. So it can be on the same page, worksheet, or it could be on a different worksheet, and it can be in a different workbook.